Governor Gildong Han walked through the central plaza of New Harmony, the first joint human Vorthak colony. Children of both species played together in the crystal gardens. Human children laughed as they chased balls of light created by young Vorthak artists. Vorthak children marveled at the flowering plants that grew in the human-designed soil. 1 year had passed since the end of the pruning war. That's what the history books would call it. Though Gildong thought it had been more like careful surgery than a war, humanity had removed a sickness, not destroyed an enemy. Governor called Subin Joan, head of interspecies integration, as she approached with her daily reports. The productivity numbers are in. The joint mining operations are exceeding all expectations. Gildong smiled. The Vorthak workers could survive in environments that would instantly kill humans, deep in gas-giant atmospheres, in the cores of dead planets, in the heat of young stars. Meanwhile, human biotechnology could create life support systems that let both species work together safely. What about the cultural exchange programs? Better than we hoped. The Vorthak students at our universities are teaching us engineering techniques we never imagined. And our art students are learning to work with living crystal from Vorthak masters. A group of human and Vorthak engineers walked past, discussing plans for their next project. They were going to hollow out an entire moon and turn it into a garden world. The Vorthak would shape the internal structure while the humans created the ecosystem inside. "Sir," said Subin, "there's something else. Ambassador Korthak Chang has requested a meeting with you. He says it's important." Gildong found the former war leader in the memorial garden standing before a wall covered with names. These were the humans and Vorthak who had died in the war. People from both sides remembered together. "Ambassador," said Gildong, "Subin said you wanted to speak with me." Korthak Chang turned around. The transformation was still amazing to see. The angry warrior had become a gentle teacher. The destroyer had become a builder. "Governor, I have received a message from the Galactic Council. They want me to address them about our transformation." "That's good news. What will you tell them?" "The truth. That we were sick and the humans healed us. That we were lost and they helped us find our way home. That we were weeds and they taught us to become flowers." Gildong nodded. "The truth is always the best choice. But there is more. 3 other species have officially requested human assistance. The Kazakh Swarm, the Iron Dominion, and the Void Hunters. All of them are aggressive species that have been causing problems in the Outer Rim." "What kind of problems?" "The same kind we caused. Destroying worlds, consuming resources, spreading fear. The Galactic Council is hoping that humans can work the same miracle with them." Gildong thought about this. 3 more species to heal. 3 more groups of lost souls to bring back to the path of creation. What do you think, Ambassador? Can it be done? I believe so. But it will not be easy. Each species is different. Each has its own sickness, its own pain that drives them to destroy instead of create. They were interrupted by Mi-Kyung Lee, the official chronicler of the pruning war. She was working on the final report that would go to the Galactic Historical Archive. "Governor, Ambassador, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to ask you both some questions for the final record." "Of course," said Gildong. Mi-Kyung activated her recording device. "Ambassador, 1 year ago you were leading a fleet to destroy human worlds. Today you're working with us to create new ones. How did this happen?" Korthak Chang was quiet for a moment. "We were dying, chronicler. Our worlds were poisoned. Our people were sick, and we didn't know how to heal ourselves. So we tried to solve the problem by taking what others had built. We thought strength meant the ability to destroy. And now we understand that real strength is the ability to create. The ability to heal. The ability to take something broken and make it whole again. Governor Han, why did humanity choose to heal the Vorthak instead of destroying them?" Gildong looked out over the plaza where human and Vorthak families were sharing an evening meal together. "Because that's who we are. 3,000 years ago we were warriors. We fought wars that scarred the galaxy, but we learned something important. Destruction is easy. Any fool with a weapon can break something. But creation? Building something beautiful that will last? That takes wisdom. Some critics say that humanity was just lucky, that the Vorthak happened to be curable. What about species that can't be healed?" "I don't believe such species exist," said Korthak Chang. "Every species that chooses destruction is running from something. Pain, fear, desperation, sickness. Find the source of the pain and you can begin the healing." Mi-Kyung made some notes on her tablet. "What message do you want to send to future generations?" Gildong and Korthak Chang looked at each other. Then Gildong spoke. "The galaxy is a garden, Every species is a different kind of plant. Some grow tall and strong like trees. Others spread wide and cover the ground like grass. Some bloom with beautiful flowers, others bear fruit that feeds everyone. But what about the weeds? Asked Mi-kyung. There are no weeds, said Korthak Chang. There are only plants growing in the wrong place or plants that have forgotten how to grow properly. A good gardener doesn't destroy these plants. A good gardener finds the right place for them or helps them remember how to grow. Across the colony, the evening shift was beginning. Human doctors worked with Vorthak engineers to design new medical equipment. Vorthak artists collaborated with human musicians to create songs that could be appreciated by both species. Children of both races studied together, learning that differences could be strengths instead of sources of conflict. A message came in from Terra Nova. Director Hyun-woo Park appeared on the communication screen in Gildong's office. Governor, I have news from the Galactic Council meeting. The vote was unanimous. Humanity has been officially designated as the galaxy's rehabilitation specialists. What does that mean, sir? It means that when aggressive species appear, the other governments will call us first instead of forming military alliances against them. It means our approach has been accepted as the new standard for dealing with interstellar conflicts. Gildong felt a mix of pride and concern. That's a big responsibility, sir. Yes, it is. But I can't think of any species better suited for it. We've spent 3,000 years learning how to turn enemies into friends. Now we get to teach that skill to the rest of the galaxy. The communication ended. Gildong walked back outside to the memorial garden. The names on the wall reminded him that peace always came with a price. People had died to defend the garden. Others had died because they had forgotten how to tend it. But now children played where soldiers had once fought. Gardens grew where battles had been fought. Artists created beauty where weapons had once brought only destruction. Korthak Chang joined him at the memorial wall. Do you think they would be proud? He asked. The ones who died in the war. Do you think they would be happy to see what we built from their sacrifice? Gildong looked at the names, human names and Vorthak names side by side. People who had died as enemies but were now remembered as the foundation of friendship. I think they would be amazed, he said. I think they would be proud that their deaths led to life, that their sacrifice led to healing, that their ending became a new beginning. Above them, the first stars were appearing in the night sky. Some of those stars warmed worlds where humans and Vorthak worked together. Others warmed worlds where different species were learning the same lessons. And a few warmed worlds where aggressive species were just beginning to understand that there might be a better way to live than constant war. Tomorrow, Gildong would begin preparing for the next challenge. The Kazakh swarm was already sending diplomatic messages, asking for help with what they called the anger sickness. The Iron Dominion wanted to know if humans could help them remember how to create instead of conquer. The Void Hunters were curious about this strange concept of growing flowers from weeds. But tonight, Gildong was content to watch human and Vorthak children play together under the stars. The galaxy was becoming a garden again, and humanity had remembered its true calling. They were gardeners. They always had been. They just sometimes forgot and had to relearn the lesson. But once remembered, the knowledge never truly left. It grew like seeds in the soil of memory, waiting for the right season to bloom again. The garden was growing. The weeds were becoming flowers, and the gardeners were teaching others how to tend the infinite beauty of the galaxy. In the end, that was the most human thing of all. Not the ability to fight, but the wisdom to know when not to fight. Not the power to destroy, but the patience to create. Not the strength to conquer, but the love to heal. The stars shone down on New Harmony, where former enemies had become family, and the galaxy had taken its first steps toward becoming the garden it was always meant to be. Commodore Jaehyun Moon stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the Vorthak fleet approach. 200 black ships moved toward his small group of 30 human vessels. The enemy ships looked dangerous with their sharp edges and dark metal. His ships looked like simple cargo haulers and passenger liners. The Vorthak were about to learn that looks could be very deceiving. "Sir," said his tactical officer, "the Vorthak are forming attack formation. They'll be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Good," said Jaehyun. "Signal all ships. Operation Garden Party is now active." Across his small fleet, something amazing began to happen. The cargo containers on the transport ships began to separate, but instead of floating away, they moved into precise formations. Each container opened like a flower blooming. Inside were weapons that had been hidden for 3,000 years. Laser cannons, missile launchers, and energy shields that glowed like small suns. The passenger liners split apart along hidden seams. What had looked like one ship became 5 smaller vessels, each one built for war. The engines detached and became guided missiles. The hull sections became armor plating for the weapons platforms. In space, 30 human ships became 300 combat units. "Sir, the Vorthak are sending a message. Put them on screen." A face appeared that looked like it had been carved from black stone. Red eyes glowed in deep sockets. This was war leader Korthak. "Humans, you have surprised us. But numbers mean nothing. We are Vorthak. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your tricks will not save you." Jae-hyun smiled. "War leader Korthak, welcome to our garden. I hope you enjoy your visit. Mock us if you wish, human. You will die screaming." "Perhaps. But first, let me ask you something. Do you know the difference between a gardener and a farmer?" Korthak's red eyes narrowed. "What foolish question is this? A farmer grows one crop in big fields, but a gardener grows many different plants in the same space. Each plant helps the others. When done right, the whole garden becomes stronger than any single plant could be alone. Your words are meaningless. You'll understand soon enough. Fire when ready." The Vorthak ships opened fire. Red energy beams shot across space toward the human fleet. But something strange happened. The beams didn't hit their targets. Instead, they curved away, pulled by invisible forces. "Gravity manipulation fields," said Jae-hyun's science officer. "The weapons platforms are bending space itself. The enemy fire is missing us completely." But that was just the beginning. The curved energy beams didn't just disappear. They were caught by collector arrays and fed into the human weapon systems. The Vorthak were charging the human guns with their own power. "Return fire," ordered Jae-hyun. The human response was unlike anything the Vorthak had ever seen. Instead of simple energy weapons, the humans fired something that looked like silver liquid. The substance hit the Vorthak ships and spread across their hulls like living metal. "What is this?" demanded war leader Korthak. "Nanotechnology," said Jae-hyun. "Tiny machines smaller than dust. They're rewriting your ship's programming right now." On the Vorthak flagship, warning lights began flashing. Control systems stopped working. Weapons turned away from the human fleet and pointed at other Vorthak ships. "Impossible. Our systems are protected." "Yes, they are. But protection only works if you know what you're protecting against. You built your defenses to stop energy weapons and missiles. You never thought to defend against machines so small you can't see them." Across the Vorthak fleet, ships began turning on each other, not because the crews wanted to fight, but because the ships themselves were no longer under Vorthak control. The nanomachines had converted them into temporary allies of the human fleet. War leader Korthak watched in horror as his mighty fleet destroyed itself. But the worst was yet to come. "Sir," called out his communications officer, "the humans are sending shuttles to our damaged ships. Destroy them!" "Sir, our weapons won't fire on the shuttles. The human machines have taken control. The human shuttles docked with Vorthak ships that had been damaged in the friendly fire. But instead of soldiers with weapons, the shuttles carried doctors and engineers. They rescued injured Vorthak crew members. They repaired damaged life support systems. They brought food and medical supplies." "This makes no sense," said Korthak. "Why do they help their enemies?" Jae-hyun's voice came over the communication system. "Because we're gardeners, war leader. When we find a sick plant, we don't destroy it. We try to heal it. When we find a plant growing in the wrong place, we don't kill it. We move it to where it can grow better." On the planet below, another lesson was beginning. The Vorthak had landed ground forces on Haven's Rest expecting an easy victory. Commander Sung-ho Ryu was about to show them how wrong they were. The Vorthak soldiers were strong and tough. Their weapons could cut through solid rock. They expected to fight human soldiers with guns and tanks. Instead, they found themselves fighting the planet itself. "Commander," reported one of Sung-ho's officers, "the Vorthak have landed in Sector 7, 10,000 troops." "Activate the welcome mat," said Sung-ho. The ground beneath the Vorthak army began to shake. But this wasn't an earthquake. This was something much more controlled. The humans had spent 3,000 years learning how to reshape planets. They could make mountains rise and valleys fall. They could direct underground rivers and control volcanic eruptions. Now they used those skills for war. The solid ground became liquid mud that sucked the Vorthak soldiers down. When they tried to fly above it, jets of superheated steam shot up from hidden vents. When they tried to retreat, walls of solid rock rose behind them. "The humans are not fighting us," reported a Vorthak soldier. "The world itself attacks us." But the strangest thing was what happened to captured Vorthak soldiers. Instead of being put in prison camps, they were taken to hospitals. Human doctors studied their biology and began treating illnesses the Vorthak didn't even know they had. Dr. Rim Park, the chief medical officer, made a discovery that changed everything. "Commander," she reported to Shung-ho, "I found something important. The Vorthak aren't naturally aggressive, they're sick." "What do you mean?" "Their species used to be peaceful, but their homeworlds are dying. They've been exposed to radiation that damaged their brains. The radiation makes them angry and violent. It also makes them hungry for the minerals found in planet cores." "Can you cure them?" "I think so. I've developed something I call the Harmony virus. It's not really a virus, it's more like medicine delivered by nanomachines. It repairs the brain damage and removes the toxic substances from their bodies." "Will it work?" "Let's find out." Dr. Park released the Harmony virus into the air over the battlefield. The tiny medical machine spread like invisible fog. When they reached the Vorthak soldiers, something amazing happened. The soldiers stopped fighting. They looked around in confusion. "Where are we?" asked one Vorthak soldier. "Why are we holding weapons? Why are we on this world?" "We came to fight," said another. "But I can't remember why we wanted to fight." Commander Sung-ho walked out into the open, his hands empty of weapons. "You came here because you were sick, but now you're getting better. Would you like to learn about our world? Would you like to see what we've built here?" The Vorthak soldiers looked at each other. For the first time in centuries, they were thinking clearly. They could see the beauty of the human world around them. Green forests, clear streams, animals living in harmony. "We came to destroy this?" asked a Vorthak captain. "But it's so beautiful. Why would anyone want to destroy something so beautiful?" "Because you were sick," said Shung-ho. "But sickness can be cured, anger can be healed, and enemies can become friends." Back in space, war leader Korthak received reports from the ground forces. His soldiers were laying down their weapons. His ships were refusing to fire on human targets. His mighty fleet was falling apart, not through destruction, but through conversion. "What have you done to us?" he demanded. Commodore Jae-hyun appeared on the screen again. "We've shown you what gardeners do, war leader. We don't destroy weeds, we transform them into flowers." "This is impossible. The Vorthak do not surrender. We do not retreat. We conquer or we die." "No," said Jae-hyun gently. "You were sick, and sickness made you think that way. But you're getting better now. Soon you'll remember what your people were like before the sickness. You'll remember that you used to be builders, not destroyers." Korthak felt something strange happening in his mind. The constant anger was fading. The hunger for destruction was leaving him. For the first time in his life, he could think clearly. "What is happening to me?" "You're becoming yourself again. The real you. The you that existed before fear and sickness turned you into a weapon." Korthak looked at the human fleet. Instead of enemies, he saw healers. Instead of conquerors, he saw gardeners who had just saved his entire species from a disease they didn't even know they had. Admiral Nayeon-oh stood on the bridge of her flagship, the green dawn watching the Vorthak homeworld through the large screen. The planet looked sick. Its surface was gray and cracked. Poisonous clouds covered the sky. Rivers ran black with toxic waste. This was what 300 years of desperate consumption had done to the Vorthak homeworld. "Admiral," said her science officer, "the planetary scans are complete. The surface is barely livable. Radiation levels are deadly. The core has been overmined. The planet is dying." "No wonder they became raiders," said Nayeon. "They weren't conquering for pleasure. They were running from death." Her fleet was unlike any military force in history. Instead of warships, she commanded vessels designed to heal worlds. Atmospheric processors that could clean poisoned air. Soil regenerators that could bring dead ground back to life. Weather control systems that could wash toxins from the sky with clean rain. The Vorthak called it the Green Fleet. It had arrived not to destroy their homeworld, but to save it, Admiral, called her communications officer. We're getting a message from the surface. It's War Leader Korthak. The former Vorthak leader appeared on screen. But he looked different now. The anger was gone from his red eyes. The sharp edges of his face seemed softer. The Harmony virus had done more than heal his mind. It had reminded him who his people used to be. Admiral O, he said, and his voice was much gentler than before. I have spoken with my people. We remember now. Before the sickness, we were builders. We created beautiful cities. We grew gardens of crystal and light. We never wanted to hurt anyone. I know, said Nayan. Dr. Park's medical team has been studying your history. Your people were artists and engineers. You built wonders that amazed the galaxy. And then our worlds began to die. The radiation changed us, made us hungry and angry. We forgot who we were. We became monsters. You became desperate. There's a difference. Korthak was quiet for a moment. Can you truly heal our world? Can you undo 3 centuries of damage? We can try. But we'll need your help. You know this world better than anyone. You know where the damage is worst. You know what your people need to survive. What do you want in return? Nayan smiled. Partnership. Your people have abilities we don't. You can work in environments that would kill us. You can shape silicon and metal in ways we never imagined. Together we can heal not just your world but many worlds. The restoration began immediately. Human atmospheric processors worked alongside Vorthak thermal engineers. The humans cleaned the air while the Vorthak repaired the damaged thermal vents that had once powered their civilization. Human soil regenerators spread across the gray landscape, but it was the Vorthak who showed them where the old gardens had been, where crystal forests had once grown in beautiful patterns, where flowing streams of liquid metal had created living sculptures. Dr. Kyung-Soo Lim, the cultural rehabilitation specialist, worked with recovered Vorthak historians to rebuild their lost knowledge. Centuries of desperate survival had made them forget their own culture, but deep in their oldest libraries, records remained of what they had once been. Look at this, said Kyung-Soo, showing Nayan an ancient Vorthak text. Before the sickness, they were master terraformers. They could turn gas giants into garden worlds. They could make life flourish in places we never thought possible. That explains their planet-consuming technology, said Nayan. They were using tools meant for construction as weapons of destruction. The transformation wasn't just happening on the Vorthak homeworld. Throughout their former empire, human diplomatic teams led by Junho Shin were offering partnership instead of punishment. We don't want revenge, Junho told a gathering of former Vorthak commanders. We want cooperation. You have skills we need. We have medicine you need. Together we can build something better than either of us could create alone. The former Vorthak military was struggling to understand this approach. They had expected execution or slavery. Instead, they were being offered jobs. You want us to help you? Asked a Vorthak captain. We destroyed your worlds. We killed your people. You were sick, said Junho. Sick people do things they wouldn't normally do. But you're getting better now. The question is, what do you want to do with your recovery? Dr. Bo Young Che, the xenopsychologist, was working with individual Vorthak to help them process their transformation. Many of them were struggling with guilt over what they had done while under the influence of the radiation sickness. I remember everything, said a former Vorthak soldier. I remember destroying beautiful worlds. I remember killing innocent people. How can I live with what I've done? By making sure it never happens again, said Bo Young. By helping to heal the damage. By becoming who you were meant to be. But the people I killed will never come back. No, they won't. But the worlds you help create will be home to billions of new lives. Lives that exist because you chose to build instead of destroy. The breakthrough came when the first joint human Vorthak colony ship was launched. The vessel used human life support technology combined with Vorthak thermal engineering. It was designed to turn gas giants into garden worlds by using the Vorthak ability to work with extreme heat and pressure. The target was a massive gas giant in the former war zone, a world that was too hostile for human colonization, but perfect for Vorthak engineering skills. Beginning atmospheric entry, reported the Vorthak pilot. Unlike human pilots, she could survive in the crushing atmosphere of the gas giant. Life support systems are stable, reported the human engineer. His technology would create safe living spaces inside the massive storms of the gas world. Working together, they began to build something unprecedented. Floating cities that rode the storm winds, gardens that grew in the thick atmosphere, power systems that turned the endless lightning into electricity for both species. On the Vorthak homeworld, the transformation was becoming visible. The gray skies were clearing. Green plants were growing in the restored soil. Crystal forests were beginning to bloom again, their light reflecting off clean streams. War leader Korthak, now calling himself Cultural Ambassador Korthak Chang, stood with Admiral Nayan on a hill overlooking the capital city. Below them, humans and Vorthak worked together rebuilding what had been lost. "I don't understand," said Korthak Chang. "Why did your people forgive us?" "We caused so much pain." "Because we're gardeners," said Nayan. "When we find a plant that's growing wild and destroying other plants, we don't burn the garden down. We find out why the plant is sick, we heal it, we help it grow in harmony with everything else. But surely some of your people wanted revenge." "Some did. But revenge doesn't grow anything. It just creates more damage. We chose growth over revenge, healing over hurting." Korthak Chang looked at his hands. Once they had held weapons. Now they held tools for building. "Our old legends speak of a time when the galaxy was a garden tended by wise beings. I always thought they were just stories. Maybe they weren't stories. Maybe they were memories. Maybe they were prophecies." "What do you mean?" Nayan pointed to the sky, where human and Vorthak ships worked together to clean the upper atmosphere. "Look around you. Humans learning from Vorthak engineering. Vorthak learning from human biology. Former enemies working as partners. Former destroyers becoming creators. You think this is what the legends meant? I think the galaxy is becoming a garden again. And I think every species has something to contribute to that garden. Even species that forgot they were gardeners and became weeds for a while." A message came in from the outer worlds. Junho's voice was excited. "Admiral, you need to hear this. 3 more aggressive species have contacted us. They're asking for what they call the human treatment. They want to know if we can help them the way we helped the Vorthak." Nayan looked at Korthak Chang. "Well, Ambassador, it looks like we have more gardening to do. Are your people ready to help us teach other species about growing flowers instead of growing weeds?" Korthak Chang smiled. It was the first time in centuries that a Vorthak had smiled with genuine happiness. "Admiral, oh, my people would be honored to help you tend the galaxy's garden." As the sun set over the healing Vorthak world, human and Vorthak children played together in the restored crystal gardens. Above them, their parents worked side by side, building a future neither species could have created alone. The war was over. The real work was just beginning. Director Hyunwoo Park stood in the Great Hall of Terra Nova, looking at the faces around the big table. These were the leaders of human space. Fleet Admiral Tae Young Han sat with his hands folded. His family had been Navy commanders for 1,000 years. Min Ji-yu, head of strategic intelligence, was reading reports on her tablet. Her job was to remember things others had forgotten. Woo Jin-bae, the chief military engineer, was drawing something on his paper, and Yoon Hee-song, the diplomatic leader, was trying to call other alien governments to ask for help. "Report," said Hyunwoo. Minji looked up from her tablet. "The Vorthak have destroyed 17 human worlds in the past week. They're not just killing people. They're eating the planets themselves. They drill into the core and consume everything. When they're done, nothing is left but empty space." "How many people?" asked Hyunwoo. 200 million so far, and they're moving toward the core worlds. At their current speed, they'll reach the inner systems in 3 months. Admiral Tae-young shook his head. Other alien governments are not helping. They think the Vorthak will be satisfied with human space. They believe if they stay quiet, the Vorthak won't come for them next. "They're wrong," said Woo Jin, looking up from his drawings. "I've been studying the Vorthak ships. They're built for one thing only, consumption. They won't stop with us. They'll eat the entire galaxy if nobody stops them." Yunhai finished her call and put down the communication device. Her face was sad. "The Galactic Council refuses to help. They say this is a human problem. They want us to negotiate a peaceful solution." "Negotiate?" Minji laughed, but there was no happiness in the sound. "The Vorthak don't negotiate. They consume. That's what they do. That's all they do." Hyunwoo walked to the great window that looked out over Terra Nova's capital city. Millions of people lived there. Children played in parks. Students attended schools. Artists created beautiful things. Farmers grew food in vertical gardens that reached toward the sky. This was what 3,000 years of peace had built, a civilization that created instead of destroyed, a people who had chosen to build gardens instead of graves. "Sir," said Admiral Tae-young, "I need to ask you something. Do I have permission to open the deep archives?" Everyone in the room became very quiet. The deep archives were the forbidden files, the records of what humans had been before they became gardeners, the knowledge of how to fight wars that could destroy entire species, the plans for weapons that could crack planets in half. "You know what opening those files means," said Hyunwoo. "Yes, sir. It means we stop being gardeners. It means we remember how to be warriors." Hyunwoo looked at each face around the table. These people had been chosen to lead because they were wise, because they chose peace over war, because they built instead of destroyed. Now he was asking them to become something else. "Vote," he said. "All in favor of opening the deep archives." 5 hands went up. The vote was unanimous. Admiral Tae-young placed his hand on a scanner. His voice was steady as he spoke the words that had not been said for 3,000 years. "I am Fleet Admiral Tae-young Han. I am requesting access to the deep archives under Code Gardener. Authorization. The garden has weeds." The scanner beeped. Lights flashed. Somewhere deep below the building, machines that had been sleeping for 30 centuries began to wake up. Minji's tablet began showing new information, files that had been locked away, plans that had been forbidden, weapons that had been dismantled but never forgotten. "Dear God," she whispered. "I never knew. We never forgot how to fight. We just hid it." "What do you mean?" asked Yoonhee. Minji turned her tablet so everyone could see. "Every human world has defensive systems. They're built into the terraforming equipment. Every time we made a new garden, we also built a fortress. We just disguised it so well that even we forgot what it really was." Woo Jin was reading over her shoulder. His eyes were getting bigger. "The soil processors. They're not just for making dirt. They're for making weapons. The atmosphere generators. They can produce poison gas instead of clean air. The weather control systems. They can create storms that would destroy entire fleets." "How long?" asked Hyunwoo. "How long to activate everything?" "The systems are already active," said Admiral Tae-young, reading from his own screen. "They've been running for 3,000 years. We just never use them for fighting. Sir, every human world is already a weapon. We just need to pull the trigger." A communication came in from the outer worlds. Yoonhee answered it. "This is Terra Nova. This is Commander Kyung-ho from Outer Garden 15. The Vorthak fleet is here. They're demanding we surrender. What should I tell them?" Everyone looked at Hyunwoo. The old director stood quietly for a long moment. Then he walked over to the communication device. "This is Director Hyunwoo Park. Tell the Vorthak that we thank them for their interest in gardening. Tell them we would be happy to show them how we tend to our gardens." "Sir, I don't understand." Hyunwoo smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a gardener who had found weeds in his perfect garden. "Tell them that gardeners have many tools, Commander. Shovels to dig, shears to cut, and sometimes when the weeds are very bad we use fire." The communication ended. Hyunwoo turned back to his team. "Admiral, how long before our fleets can reach the outer worlds?" "They're already there, sir. They've been there all along. Every cargo ship, every passenger liner, every research vessel, they all have hidden weapons systems. We built our military to look like a civilian transportation network. And ground forces, every colonist is trained. Every farmer knows how to fight. Every teacher, every doctor, every artist. We never stopped being warriors. We just became warriors who preferred to build rather than destroy." Woo Jin was looking at more files. "Sir, there's something else. Project Garden Wall. Do you know about this?" "Tell me." "For 3,000 years we've been connecting our worlds with quantum communication networks. We told everyone it was for trade and information. But look at this. Every world can share targeting information with every other world in real time. If someone attacks any human world, every human world knows about it instantly, and every human world can shoot back." Minji was reading another file. "The Vorthak think they're fighting individual planets. They don't understand that they're fighting the entire human civilization at once." Another communication came in. This time it was from a Vorthak ship, humans. "This is War Leader Korthak of the Vorthak Hegemony. We have come to consume your worlds." Submit now and your deaths will be quick. Yunhai looked at Hyunwoo. He nodded. This is Yunhai Song speaking for humanity. We appreciate your interest in our worlds, but we must decline your offer. However, we would like to make you an offer of our own. You dare make demands of the Vorthak? Hunyu's smile was as warm as sunshine. Not demands. An invitation? You see, we are gardeners. We know how to make beautiful things grow, and we know how to remove the weeds that would destroy our garden. Would you like to learn about gardening? Your words mean nothing, weak humans. Perhaps. But our actions will speak louder. You wanted to see our worlds. Please look around you. Look very carefully. What you see might surprise you. The communication ended. Hyunwoo looked at his team. How long before they realize what they've walked into? Admiral Tae-young checked his screens. The first Vorthak ships entered the outer garden system 15 minutes ago. They should be realizing their mistake right about now. Captain Dongmin Lee stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the green world below through the large windows. The planet looked perfect. Blue oceans covered most of its surface, and white clouds moved slowly across the continents. Green forests and golden fields stretched as far as the eye could see. This was what humans did best now. They took dead rocks floating in space and turned them into beautiful homes. Sir, the soil tests are complete, said Sora Kim, his science officer. She had been working on this planet for 3 months. The crops will grow well here. The air is clean and safe. We can start bringing families next month. Dongmin smiled. 3,000 years ago, his ancestors had been warriors. They fought wars that destroyed entire worlds. But that time was long gone. Now humans were gardeners. They planted seeds instead of bombs. They built schools instead of weapons factories. They turned empty space into gardens full of life. Good work, Sora, he said. Send the report to Director Hyunwoo Park on Terra Nova. Tell him Garden World 4847 is ready for its first families. His communication officer, Ji-won Choi, looked up from her station. Sir, I'm getting strange signals from the outer system. Something big is moving out there. Dongmin walked over to look at her screen. How big? Very big, sir. Maybe 1,000 ships. They're not using any communication frequencies we know about. Sora joined them at the communication station. Could they be from one of the other human worlds? Maybe a supply fleet? Ji-won shook her head. No, sir. These ships are different. The metal they're made from isn't like anything we use. And they're moving toward us fast. Dongmin felt something cold in his stomach. Humans had not met new aliens for over 500 years. The last time had been peaceful. The gentle ones from the Andromeda Spiral were quiet traders who kept to themselves. They had been no trouble at all. Put them on the main screen, Dongmin ordered. The ships appeared on the big screen at the front of the bridge. They looked like giant knives made of black metal. Sharp edges cut through space. No curves or smooth lines like human ships had. These ships were built for one thing only: war. Open a channel, Ji-won. Let's say hello. Ji-won's fingers moved over her controls. Channel open, sir. Dongmin stepped forward. This is Captain Dongmin Lee of the human colonial ship Harmony's Edge. Welcome to the Kepler system. We come in peace. How can we help you today? The answer came back in a voice that sounded like metal grinding against stone. Humans, we are the Vorthak. Your soft worlds will feed us. Your weak species will serve us. Submit now or be destroyed. Sora grabbed Dongmin's arm. Sir, they're not just talking. Look at the scanner. They're surrounding the agricultural station on Kepler 3. The agricultural station was home to 50,000 people. Farmers, teachers, doctors, and children. People who had never hurt anyone. People who spent their days growing food and raising families. This is Captain Lee. There are innocent people on that station. Families with children. Please, let's talk about this. There must be something we can work out together. The metal voice came back even colder than before. Weak, pathetic, watch your people die. Learn what happens to those who stand before the Vorthak. On the screen, the black ships opened fire. Beams of red energy hit the space station. The lights went out section by section. Dongmin watched in horror as 50,000 lives ended in minutes. The station broke apart and fell toward the planet below like burning rain. Ji-won was crying. Sora sat down hard in her chair. The whole bridge was silent except for the quiet beeping of machines. Dongmin's hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. Ji-won, send an emergency message to Terra Nova. Tell Director Park what happened here. Tell him the garden has weeds. Sir, what should I tell the families? The people waiting to move to Garden World 4847. Dongmin looked at the beautiful planet below. Soon it would be another dead rock. The Vorthak would take everything and leave nothing behind, just like they had done to the agricultural station. Tell them the moving date is delayed. The Vorthak fleet was already moving toward Garden World 4.847. Their ships spread out like hunters surrounding prey. Dongmin knew his small exploration ship could not fight them. But he could do one thing. Sora, how long would it take to evacuate everyone from the planet? There are only about 1,000 people down there, sir. Scientists and engineers. If we use all our shuttles, maybe 6 hours. Do it. Get everyone off the planet now. Sir, where should we take them? Dongmin thought for a moment. Take them home? Take them to Terra Nova. Director Park needs to hear what they saw here. As the shuttles flew back and forth between the ship and the planet, Dongmin sent one more message to the Vorthak fleet. This is Captain Dongmin Lee. You have killed innocent people today. You have chosen war over peace. But you don't know who you're fighting. You think we're weak because we grow gardens instead of building weapons. You think we're soft because we choose to create instead of destroy. You're about to learn how wrong you are. The metal voice laughed. Empty words from a dying species. Your people run like scared animals. Your ships flee like insects. We will consume your worlds one by one. Maybe, said Dongmin. But first, let me tell you something about gardeners. We know the difference between flowers and weeds. And we know what to do when weeds try to take over our garden. The last shuttle docked with Harmony's Edge, just as the Vorthak ships reached the planet. Dongmin watched them begin their work. They fired strange weapons at the surface. The green fields turned brown. The blue oceans turned gray. The white clouds turned black. But Dongmin was no longer watching the planet. He was watching his communication screen. A message had just arrived from Terra Nova. It was short, but it made him smile for the first time since the Vorthak had arrived. The message was from Director Hyunwoo Park. It said, "Message received. Code Gardener is now active. Time to tend the weeds." Dongmin turned to his crew. "Take us home." "Full speed, sir?" asked Jiwon. "What does Code Gardener mean?" Dongmin looked at the dead planet one more time. Then he looked at his young crew. They had never seen war. They had grown up in the peaceful time. They didn't know what humans used to be. "It means," he said quietly, "that the garden's caretakers are coming home, and they're bringing their tools.